sure you are fixing any mistakes. I did apologize. I just put in your quiz grades. It's been crazy grading and whatever. I just didn't get a chance to put them in, but they are in now. So after we go through it, if you have any questions, I'll walk around, make sure you have any, don't have any questions before you guys take your test. So for the first one, we have to distribute the negative. Combine our like terms. And then get rid of 16 and divide both sides by negative 12. That would have changed the direction of the sign. So that would have been closed at negative 2 going to the right. So that would have started at negative 2 with a bracket and ended at infinity. So those 4 points were, did you solve it correctly? Did you get the correct inequality notation? Did you graph it correctly? And then the correct interval notation. Questions about that one? Alright, for number 2, Renee's going bowling. The cost per game is $2.50. She'll need to rent a pair of bowling shoes for $1.50. You can spend up to $16. We have to write the maximum number of games. So I didn't take off points if you did or did not do this, but you should have had some variable. You can call that whatever you want. That should have been for number of games. Then set up your inequality. This would have been, she can spend up to $16. So less than or equal to 16, and then 2.5g plus 1.5, or if you switch those, 1.5 plus 2.5g, that was also fine. But the symbol should have been less than. All of the inequality part is less than 16. And then get rid of 1.5 and divide. So that g was less than or equal to 5.8, but we can't have 0.8 of a game, so that would round down to 5. So those 4 points were, did you set up the inequality correctly, solve it correctly, get the correct actual answer, the 5.8, and then the correct rounded answer, the 5. Questions on that one? Daniel, did you have a question? So then for objective 2, we had to solve these two inequalities separately. Subtract 12 to the left. Divide both sides by negative 6. That would have changed the direction of the sign. Subtract 4 on the right. Divide both sides by negative 5. Again, that would have changed the direction of the sign. Make sure you have or in between the two inequalities. Maybe some of us missed that. And then when we graph that, it didn't matter what numbers you put here as long as you had both. So that would have been open to the left at negative 1 and open to the right at 2. So those 4 points were, did you solve both inequalities correctly? Did you get the correct inequality answer with or in it? And then did you graph it correctly? You didn't need to write your interval notation. It was fine if you did, but I wasn't looking for that here. Questions on that one? And then number 4, get rid of the 5 by dividing. And then you could either know that this is less than, so it's and, or at the end, graph it and see what that would look like. So here, if you know it's and, you can either write it as a condensed case, or you can write it as two separate cases. But if you write it as two separate cases, make sure you change the direction of the sign and make the number negative. And then no matter how you solved it, this would give you x is less than or equal to 3, x is greater than or equal to negative 5. This would be negative 5 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 3. So the condensed would be A. But if you graph these two, this would start at negative 5 and go to the right, start at and end at 3 and go to the left, and you can see they overlap. So either way, you should have seen that it was some and. And then the 5 points were, did you isolate the absolute value correctly? Either set up your two cases or set up your combined case. Solve it. Get your condensed answer. So even if you separated the two cases, your final answer needs to be condensed. And then did you graph it correctly? Do you have any questions on that? Overall, most of us did pretty well on these two sections and the other two sections, the quiz in general. Then on objective 3, the inequality that's shown should have been A. X is less than 3. This is a vertical line, so it has to be X. If you weren't sure, you could have picked numbers in this and replaced X with it. So 0 is less than 3, 2 is less than 3, negative 5 is less than 3, so we know it's going to the left. The other one would not. For 6, we had to solve this inequality. Divide everything by 3 so that we get y is less than or equal to negative 4/3 x plus 7. And then graph that. This would be a solid line because of the equal to. And this would be shaded below because it's less than. And then you were looking for a point that was not a solution, so which one would not fall in the shaded area, and that was D. That was the only one that would not fall in that shaded area. So your 5 points for that one were, did you solve the inequality correctly? Did you shade it in the right direction? Did you graph the right type of line, dashed or solid? Did you graph the right slope and y-intercept? And then did you pick the correct point? Questions about that? And then the last section. For number 7, we had to find two inequalities. I'm going to start with the solid line. So this starts at positive 2. And if I counted my slope, I'm going down 1 to the left 2. So that would be negative 1/2. I know it's a solid line, so it has to be equal to. And this is shaded above the line. So that would be greater than or equal to. And then for the other one, this starts at 5, positive 5. You'd have to find points on the slope and make sure that slope goes all the way through your line. So the slope of this one was positive 2. It's a dashed line, so it has to be strictly greater than or strictly less than. And at the y-intercept, this is shaded underneath, so that would be less than. So y is greater than or equal to negative 1/2 x plus 2, and y is less than 2x plus 5. So if you switch those signs, switch the direction of the sign, switch the slope or y-intercept, you got points taken off, but they were one piece. And then in the last one, we're given one inequality that we can just graph. So starting at 1, going up 1 to the right 2, down 1 to the left 2. This would have been a dashed line, or you could have left it as a dotted line and just threw arrows at the end. This would be shaded underneath. And then the other one we had to solve, get it back in slope-intercept form. Starting at 6, the slope is -3, so up 3 to the left one, down 3 to the right one. That was a solid line. And that one was shaded above, so everything to the right. So the overlapping section would have been here. So then if you check the points on the side, -1, -3 was in one of the shaded areas, but not in the overlapping. 9, -5 was in the overlapping. 1, 2 fell just outside of the overlapping. 2, 0 fell on the solid line, and if you check that, it worked. And then 5, 2 also fell in the overlapping. So the points on the side were, you either got those or you didn't, so that was worth 5. And then the solving was worth 1. And then the types of line for both, shaded or dashed, the slopes and y-intercepts for both, and then the overlapping region to make a total of 11. Questions on any of those two problems? Do you have any general questions about the test? Like the quiz, you guys are going to start with the non-calculator section. If you have a specific question on your quiz, hold on to it for a second, and I'll come around and ask you about that, or you can ask me about that. But go ahead and put your calculator